Hi there, traders. This is Brad Gilbert with the FX Market Insight for Thursday, the 23rd of April. All right, now just having a look at the data, what's going around. It's interesting to see across the board. Now, as we come into the European session, the German and European data here has really impacted the market. And this is good to see, obviously, on a number of different reasons. It gives us something tangible to trade with. At the same time, probably disappointing for some traders who have been getting short euro and getting stopped out on the stop-start opportunities. So just having a look here across the board, if I just get my pen over. So just having a look here, like the Aussie, just trading sideways, right? You can leave those trend lines where they are. When you are looking at these specific pairs, it looks like they're trying to break down, but there's nowhere to go. And dollar yen, pretty much the same, right? So there's not much happening there. Sterling, after that sort of dip, came back and retraced pretty nicely twice, and even almost hitting the trend line there. So to me, sterling still on rallies. And this is where we've seen euro, which was just doing the same old sideways dance across the trend lines there. But that's when that European data came into play. German service, flash manufacturing, and composite flash data all coming in weak. Now, what that's done is, I'll just bring you back to that dollar page. Just giving you a look here. So you've got the dollar index shooting to the top side. You know, euro 58% of the basket or thereabouts. It's going to obviously push the dollar basket higher and puts the euro under pressure. Now, does this move continue? Well, I wouldn't think so. I think it's a flash in the pan, right? The data everywhere is getting weak. It's just the market has had like a moment of weakness, and the economic numbers have come through and actually impacted. So we'll see how that plays out. I would expect European equities to come in weaker, and maybe that gives the US, North American equities a bit of a chance to have something to play with as we go through there. So the Japanese or the Asian equities sort of mixed. The Japanese stock market's up, and the Chinese pretty flat. So outside of this, there's been no news. And when there's no news, that's when the market can come back and start to gravitate towards the fundamental data. All right. So if I just come back and get up the daily trade routine here, just having a look, right? So out of all the instruments, like the currencies, yes, still trading technically quite well. To me, the equity markets and the bond markets are still sort of the main raw nerve in the market, but we are running out of coronavirus bad news, right? So things have got to sort of turn around, and oil has started to come back, and that's taken a bit of pressure off the top side in dollar CAD. Now, looking at the active pairs, for me, the pairs with a clear direction, well, still oil, you got to think, this isn't over, right? We're coming back to levels where we could potentially be getting short and look for that next wave. The lockdowns are still in place. There's no reason oil should be going above, well, 1875 or above 20. So we'll see how that plays out. To me, it changed the dollar CAD from being a buy and dip, sort of more a buy and break. Now, if oil starts to fall again, that's when we're going to see dollar CAD race to the top side. And it shouldn't do it outside that. So these things will start to work in tandem. If you've missed it already, you probably have. Sterling was a sell on rallies. It was there yesterday. And Aussie also still preference is selling on rallies. Like you look at the downside on some of these pairs. Let me just flick back just quickly to the currencies. Like you feel like these things are moving now. Actually, let me just use the Aussie as a bit of an example here. So we have as you go through the sessions, you're probably adjusting your trend line to these levels, and you come across here to the start of the Asian session, and you're thinking, well, this thing looks like it's breaking down. But what we're seeing is this is just a continual sideways move, and it's hard to recognize sometimes. One way you can do it is by just leaving your trend line where the trend line was tangible, okay, around these sort of levels here. You see it start to moving sideways through the trend lines. That's when you can sort of really break away from the opportunity on the downside. There's no real support. All you're doing is moving the support trend line from one low to the next, to the next, to the next, right? That's not really support, okay? By the time you get over here, you've got the sort of starting point and one other level, right? So you need at least 3 touches for these things to sort of really count. So to me, that doesn't sort of come into play. But I'll tell you what does come into play is the top side, and that's that resistance level up around 63.85. So that's where you can sort of wait for the markets to come back to your levels. Now, just coming back to the daily trade routine, if I get that up, I think that's the right page. All right, so the watch list pairs. Well, there's a few pairs on the watch list, of course. Usually more pairs than that are active. But the pairs that have got short-term momentum are dollar yen, euro, and dollar Swiss. Obviously, dollar Swiss and euro sort of working in opposite directions. But when one is on, the dollar Swiss is usually in play as well if euro's on. So that's where we are at the moment. The Dow, Kiwi, gold. Well, gold's coming back a little bit, but we still need some more stimulus or some fresh news from, I don't know what sort of source. I mean, there's so many weird news sources these days about the coronavirus, but you know what? I don't think they've got a lot of negativity to focus on, and that's probably wearing them a little bit thin. And that's where we are today. I mean, there's a bit to play for as we come into the North American session. Actually, one thing I should have popped up is the fundamental numbers, because today, Thursday, it's the initial jobless claims. It will be interesting to see how the US jobless claim numbers come about. I would have thought they would have been up around the 20 million mark, but they're still sitting around 5 million. We'll see how that comes into play. That's the sort of major release for today to focus on. All right, guys, that's it from me. Not a hell of a lot going on, but I'll tell you what, if you're short euro, you've done all right. The rest of the pairs are pretty much just cruising around sideways. All right, have a good trade day. Cheerio.
There he is.